Why did I have to bring up Cats? That movie drove me. Oh, hello and welcome to You'll Probably Agree. Today I have from kickingtheseat.com Ian Simmons on, and I had to bring up Cats to Ian, and then he said, "Oh, we should see that." And I said, "Fuck, yeah, we do." And here we are talking about Tom Hooper's weird sex fantasy film Cats and its incredible CGI. I remember when they were showing this movie, they were showing Rise of Skywalker and then Cats on the same day. And both are visually rough for the senses because Rise of Skywalker, J.J. Abrams just has an orgasm with the strobe lights in it, like whenever they're on what was it, like Exxon Mobil or whatever the fuck it was called.
It's Exegol, but
Yeah.
I feel like you can extrapolate Exxon Mobil from that. It's somehow perfect.
Yeah. It was like, yeah, just a and it was like, it was like at noon, and the day before I was at a holiday party for my other job. Luckily I stayed sober for it, but I was just tired, and then they're like, "You want to see Cats next?" And I'm like, no. That's okay.
You might have done well to do it, because I think the best way to see Cats, at least for the first time, is in some sort of a not quite with it experience. I saw it on my wedding or my dating anniversary with my wife. We still celebrate that it's in December, and it is our tradition is we try and find the worst movie playing at a movie theater and go see it. Now, we went to, I think it was like a 9 or a 9:30 p.m. show, and this is a 2-hour movie essentially. And so we were both like out of it because we'd been up since 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and it was Cats. But I had a euphoric experience. I legitimately loved this movie when I first saw it, and I watched it again for this discussion, not straight, which is to say I wasn't drinking or doing drugs, but I watched it with Tom Hooper's audio commentary from the Blu-ray. Yes, I bought the Blu-ray, which comes with a DVD and a digital copy, so I am covered. I'm never losing this movie. But watching it and listening to him talk about it made it opened it up to an entirely another level. I am so happy to talk to you about this because you hated this movie, I can tell, and most people did. So this is going to be fun.
So you're the one guy on earth who liked it?
That's not true, sir. This has on IMDb, it's got a 2.7 stars out of 34,874 ranking. And on the tomato meter, it's got a 20% critics rating, 53% audience score, which means that I am in league with, much like our presidential politics, there's at least half the country who appreciate this movie.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
We're talking about the Donald Trump of movies, I guess. That
it's so weird. When I was watching this, I'm like, this is the long-term effects of coronavirus. Like, people are just going to turn into like these human cat freak hybrids. Like, for those that like survive it. It's like if you have coronavirus and they're like, it has lasting effects. It's like, what's that going to be? It's like, well, here's the post-apocalypse. And then you just watch Cats.
Well, I mean, the movie takes place in the 30s, so it's got to be like an alternate dimension, portal opening up. But no, I think there's something to be said there for coronavirus crossed with toxoplasmosis, which is the infection you get from inhaling too much particles from cat shit. Thank you, Train Spotting. I think you're onto something.
Or you could be cheesing by sniffing cat piss from South Park.
I didn't see that episode, but it just reminds me of coming down to my basement because I'm pretty sure our cat's been leaving treasures for me to find.
Oh, I thought you said you were going down your basement to smell cat shit.
No, I can do that from anywhere in the house. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, it smells bad. My sister has a cat, and it's like I don't like the species. I don't like the movie. One day my cat ran away, or my sister's cat ran away from the house, and she was like crying. She's like, "Where is she?" And I'm like, obviously she doesn't want to be here. But Yeah, just this doesn't. And then they have a whole closing song about how much they're not like dogs. It's like, yeah, because you're smug, and dogs actually love you.
Well, that's a whole other argument. Cats, cats versus dogs, which is also another movie, I think.
Yeah,
But no, you don't like the species, and you don't like the feces.
yeah.
So we've established that. That's good. It's a good starting point. We got to know where we stand in this discussion before we get into it.
Who likes feces?
Um, I look, there is an entire subdivision of the dark web, I'm sure, where you can find videos devoted to people talking about their love of feces.
Well,
Not that I have
there's my
anything to know
rate
about it.
my there's ratemypoo.com, I know, where people take pictures of their shit and then like rate it. And then there's Two Girls, One Cup. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a party movie.
Yeah.
But no, I'm just glad that you said "rate my cup" twice, because at first I thought you said a very different word than "rate."
No,
No,
I
rate
wanted
my
to.
poop. Yes.
Yeah. How would you? Okay. Ew.
Let's
this
stop this
this
dead in its tracks before
video
you get
this
canceled.
video is automatically labeled not for children. Thank God my sister's kids aren't. Although they can't understand what I'm saying, so yeah,
You might think that's the case, but
yeah, they'll
the kids are
repeat
very
it.
perceptive. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh
Well,
God. But no, I mean, yes, the visuals are, as we know, horrifying. Most of the musical numbers are just kind of pointless. Like every time they introduced a new character, they had to sing about that character for like 10 minutes. And I don't know what it did to progress the plot. There's only one really great song, which is Memories. I think when Andrew Lloyd Webber wrote Cats, he had that one fantastic number, and then he had to just like fill it with a bunch of other stuff. So he just got really high and wrote Cats. And it was the 80s, so it was the age of excess. So everybody loved this film. And I mean, not this film, the play, and it took off. And then I don't know, I guess it kept going for years. Spielberg originally wanted to do a version way back, and it was going to be an animated version, and I'm like,
hmm.
yeah, that would have worked way better. Like even people in just regular ass cat costumes would have worked better, but an animated version would have been ideal. This fucked up CGI hybrid is like, I don't know why they do that, but I am fascinated to hear why you liked it. I'm fascinated to hear that. I'm surprised Toby Hooper even did an audio commentary track.
Tom Hooper.
Tom Hooper, not Toby Hooper, not the Texas Chainsaw guy.
That would have
Yeah,
been remarkable for two reasons.
yeah,
Uh, one, that he's not with us anymore, but
yeah,
just for anyone who didn't catch why that would have been fascinating.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, let's start off with the visuals. I disagree. I think while not perfect, and Cats has sort of a troubling history with the with the visual presentation.
I wonder why.
Notoriously, I think it was a week after it opened, they announced that, I think it was it Paramount announced that they were going to re-release the movie in theaters with updated digital effects.
Yeah,
This does not. This might involve what's known as the butthole cut. I don't know if you're familiar with
yes,
this,
I do. Yes.
or as I like to call it, the episiotomy edition. But there was initially, you saw the cat's buttholes when they would bend over or clean themselves or whatever, and so I guess they took that out. But
That was
what
like
I'm
a
talking,
lot of time to do that late into the stage.
right? But they also, now I had only seen, my recollection of this is a bit hazy, because I think I'd
Yeah.
only seen one trailer for Cats before it came out and before they updated the effects. And I also remember thinking that the cats looked really wonky, and the effects just almost looked a little bit floaty, like you could tell it was digital effects on top of someone's face, like you might see in the Asylum. But when I saw the version of Cats that was out in the theaters in late December, I think it was the weekend that they put out the new version, just by coincidence. And I gotta say, even though some of the effects are dodgy, but only in the way that they're dodgy in like every movie. Even like the Avengers, you're going to see some shots are like, that fully CGI body is a little bit strange. It'll look better in 20 years. Well, the effects will get better in 20 years.
Yeah.
But as far as what they did with the grafting of the people with the cat effects, I don't have any problem with it, aside from the fact that it is aesthetically weird and kind of off-putting, but that's the aesthetic of the movie. So as far as the quality of it, I can't knock it because I think that Hooper set out what he wanted to, doing what he wanted to do. And I'm not sure if that was a mandate from the studio or if that was in his vision, because you could just adapt the cat stage play by having people in cat costumes, work, bouncing around the screen. I don't know if that's enough of a draw to get modern audiences who are so used to special effects and CGI, digital effects, into the seats. Now it turns out this version didn't get them into the seats either, but I can understand the studio's calculation. As far as a fully animated version, I think that'd be cool. I think a 2D animated version would have been really, neat to see, but we're not going to get that, especially not now.
Mhm.
It's interesting to note that the effects team that worked on this also worked on at least the digital locations. I'm not sure about the animators, but Hooper mentioned that it's the same crew who did the effects for the live, the quote unquote live action Lion King and Jungle Book, working with Favreau before this. So I mean, as far as the quality of the animation, I can't knock it. And there were a lot of like physical sets and things that they, built for the scale mixed in with kind of digital blending. So yeah, that's not a critique that, I certainly had with the movie.
Uh, it was going to be 2D animated. Um, and I do see a little bit of the point of like, that is kind of fascinating when I remember before they even showed the trailer that got an incredible amount of downvotes on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
They had this behind the scenes sort of making of video of it. They didn't show any footage from the movie, but you saw the actors on set and you saw these big elaborate incredible looking sets and you're like, what the hell is this? But then the trailer came out and I saw just this horrifying display of madness. And it is so bizarre that I guess the studio could say, yeah, maybe audiences would be really interested to see what that looks like. But once you kind of get over the, ew, that looks weird, I don't, people wouldn't really be appealed to seeing it. And the problem was it was so distracting. It pulled me out of the movie almost completely. I couldn't get over it. Um, and even when I got used to the look, it I just most of the music I just don't think works today. Again, this came out in the 80s. The 80s was a celebration of excess, and this movie is all about excess. It's about a bunch of I guess the movie's about rebirth in a way because they say the word what is it? Celestial Jelliger. I should remember it because they hammered in Jellicle.
Jellicle, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because they hammered it into your head because they say it. I think. Oh, here it is. Yeah, they said it 128 times throughout the film, not including the closing credits. And I guess if you become talented enough and a big enough singer, you get taken out of cat limbo and you're brought back into the world and you're given a second chance at life. And it's really sort of a Darwinism theory as who's the most talented. Maybe not quite Darwinism, but it kind of reflective of the industry of, who has the best voice, who has the best looks, this, that, and the other. Of course, we think we're gonna go with the protagonist of the film, but in the end, they went with Jennifer Hudson, who's sort of the most sympathetic figure of the movie. It's just I don't know why and this is probably a critique on the play. As a play, I could see how it would work if it was about a cat who has the best musical number and you're doing it on a stage. But in a movie, I just didn't care. I didn't care about any of it. I didn't remember who most of the characters were. Even though they sang about some character for a multitude of minutes, like they had a one magician cat,
Hmm.
and they kept singing the same verse about him again and again and again and again. And oh God, I
Well,
wanted them to shut the hell up. What the hell was his name?
Mr. Mistopheles.
Yeah, if they said, "Mr. Mistopheles, do your magic one more time," I was gonna fucking slam the TV with a baseball bat.
Well, I gotta stop here though. Do you like musicals? Do you watch a lot of them?
I'm open-minded to them. I do like some of them. I like Sound of Music. I like West Side Story.
Mhm.
I like a lot of the classic musicals. But this one was not a good one.
Well, I'm just your critique of talking about the parade of characters and each of them getting a song and then
Yeah,
kind of repeating these verses over again. That pops up in musicals. That's not unique to Cats.
but
And
it's not
so
catchy.
well, I mean, but that's that's
Yeah.
that's that's your point of view, is what I'm saying. I mean,
Mhm.
whether or not it's catchy, I mean, this was a phenomenon for the last 40 years.
Yep.
So there is something to be said for, its endurance, and it's known beyond memories. And there's a lot of people who like and respect Cats, as a piece of art. So I mean, again, that's sort of a subjective critique,
Yeah.
and which is fine, because that's what we kind of all bring to the movies. I'm just trying to encounter this on as fair and a level playing field, as possible. Um,
Yeah.
I didn't like the songs. That's fine.
Yeah.
There are other people who do, and you're not liking the songs is going to be a barrier to entry.
Mm.
But specific, like, the songs all serve the purpose, and I think based on what your assessment of why the songs were in the movie, you may have missed the point of the film, and that's not a knock on you. I thought I got it while I was watching it. I actually went out immediately after seeing Cats, because Barnes and Noble was right across the mall from where I saw it, and I picked up T.S. Eliot's book that this was based on, because I didn't even know it was a book.
Mm.
I thought it was just a play, but it's an old book called Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats, and it's
Hmm.
essentially a children's book, with some great illustrations. And I read it, and the point of all of the musical numbers, it's not the cats that are the most talented, it is the cats that are the most worthy of this shot of redemption. So it's
Mm.
essentially, every year, however often this ritual takes place, there is a cat that comes down from on high. This case, it's played by Dame Judi Dench, to essentially evaluate this cat population, and whoever is the most worthy of a second chance of being able to come back and relive their life, and hopefully, get that opportunity to go back. Like, if I could do it all over again,
Mm.
offering them that chance. What the musical numbers do is they set up each of these cats. It's sort of like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Each of these kids wants the big prize, but each of the musical numbers that are tied to these characters exposes why they think they're worthy of it and why they're really not. It's a critique of their characters. You're talking about the excess and the bawdiness of the music. That's sort of the point. It's because all of these characters leading up to the final ones who are actually having the shot of getting this redemption, they're all kind of despicable characters. You've got the twin mice, or the twin
Mhm.
cats, who are the thieves. You've got Rebel Wilson's character, who's just a lazy house cat who just, like, eats all the time and kills roaches for sport. You've got the railway cat, who just I can't remember what his deal was, but and then you've got the uh, McCavity, played by Idris Elba, who,
Mm.
sidebar, that is the one bit of CG that I thought was really disturbing. When he's completely naked, there's just something about there's something about the fact that he just looked like he was in a tight-fitting lycra suit that they just put a thin layer of cat fur on. Like, there was nothing feline about him below the neck, and that was kind of disturbing. But McCavity is the one who's, like, he represents sort of the devil, and he's the real magic in the film. He's trying to kidnap the competition to take them out of the way, so that he would be the only one who is going to be left. So, like, well, you might as well take me and I'll get this opportunity. So there's a lot of going on in this story, and a lot of it is woven into the lyrics of the songs. So I understand the critique, I just don't accept it. When you've got
Mm.
this character comes on screen and they're singing about him for 10 minutes and they move on to someone else. That doesn't make any sense to me. If you listen to the music, if you watch what's going on with the characters and what happens to a lot of these characters after the songs, which is they sort of, much like, again, Willy Wonka, they get kind of whisked away or kidnapped because they fall to their own greed, then there's a lot of substance to this story.
That would have been all well and good if I could understand it. Like, I was listening to the lyrics, I was watching the songs, that I didn't get it. And with your advantage is you listen to the audio commentary by the director, you read the
No,
book.
I got this while I was watching it the first time.
Well, you're smarter than I am. So
the book, when I read it later, it made it a little bit easier because I was the lyrics to the songs are essentially, a lot of them are taken directly from the T.S. Eliot book. I think there's a lot of the addition of music and some, probably bridging moments that Andrew Lloyd Webber added to make it a musical, but a lot of it's in the source material. So being able to go back and read it after, again, being very tired and watching this 2-hour movie, I was like, oh, this makes a bit more sense. I got it on the first time, but I really got on the second time reading the book and then listening to Hooper talk about it. Not so much that he explained what was going on thematically. A lot of what it was talking about the history and what it took to get this thing made. And this is one of the things that I stood up for when I made my video back in December called In Defense of Cats, which I think has a whopping 9 views. So, explains how interested people are in watching someone defend cats. This isn't a movie that was a cash grab. I could tell from watching it that the people who put it together, even if they didn't hit the mark as far as the popular audience was concerned, these people really cared about it. And listening to Hooper talk about the film, he grew up, with cats. It was one of his dreams to always kind of make, do his own version of the production. And was it Francesca Hayward is she plays Victoria, the main cat. This was her dream. She's a world-class ballerina, and she's always wanted to do this particular production. Dame Judi Dench was supposed to be in the original cast of Cats, but she broke her ankle or something and fell off the stage, so she wasn't able to do it. So Hooper talks about how it was kind of a homecoming moment for her to get to be in this film. So even though you've got these giant stars and you might say, oh, they're just doing it for a paycheck, there is real investment here. And I think it, personally, I thought it came off of the screen. I didn't think anyone was phoning it in.
I think they did put in effort and they put in a lot of talent. I just, again, I think through a standard audience member, to a dumb like me, I just watched it. I didn't know what the hell they were singing about or talking about. I just kept going, huh? What? I sometimes had to even put on the subtitles to understand what they were saying. And to an extent, if I don't know what's going on with the characters, and it's sort of like the same defense I hear with like the new Star Wars movie. Well, you got to see this cartoon show to understand why. Like, well, if I got to do all that, then why am I seeing the movie?
I agree. I agree with that. And there's certain with the Marvel films, that's certainly true. Not that you need to see Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or read the comics, but you certainly have to have seen the previous 15 movies to understand what's going on.
Except they actually had an audience when they did it.
Yeah. And that's true. With Cats, let me just ask you this hypothetical question.
Yeah.
Same movie, take Tom Hooper's name off of it.
Yeah.
Put David Lynch's name on it. Is it in any way a better film, or is it any way perhaps open you up to the idea that you're watching something that is challenging and needs to be really studied versus, oh, it's just more Hollywood crap that the guy who made the King's Speech directed because he needed money?
I think if it was a David Lynch film, I'd say that was one of his failed experiments.
Well, I mean, that's an honest answer.
Yeah, because David Lynch has made some movies that I think aren't that great. Sometimes you can tell, even the new season of Twin Peaks, I loved it, but there were some scenes where I'm just going, I'm sorry, but your crew, if you see the behind the scenes stuff, they're telling him to rush a scene, and he did. Like there's a scene where some French woman is, getting dressed, and David Lynch is staring and smiling at her, and it literally goes on for 8 minutes. I timed it's like, this doesn't need to be in here. I get that you like a movie to take its time and to maybe have us invest in a shot or understand why something's there, but I also know I've been around a lot of people. I went to an art school, which don't go to art school, by the way, folks.
Hey, wait, hold on a second. I'll stand up for art school here too, since we're defending cats. Or I am.
Yeah,
I got a lot out of art school too.
yeah. Well, go to art school as long as you also get a degree in something that can make you money.
Fair,
But
fair.
yeah, but the thing is, sometimes people put in weird shit for no particular reason, just because it was a random thought of theirs, and there's no sort of message or merit behind it. And sometimes Lynch would do that with Twin Peaks. I think he did that a lot with Inland Empire. So if he made this version of Cats, I'd just be like, yeah, it's David Lynch. You just put in poor CGI and random musical numbers. And I'd feel like he'd be stuck in a Dune situation where like a lot of the project would be taken out of his hands and he wouldn't have enough creative control. Um,
That's possible, but the
yeah.
other angle to that is you have people who think that Lynch can do no wrong and would be able to explain to you why those rushed takes or that weird shit you didn't understand actually does have meaning and adds to the overall fabric of his filmography. I mean, the film and film criticism and film viewing, they're all subjective
Mm-hmm.
things, right? So what I'm saying is, not that David Lynch's Cats would have done any better box office than
Yeah.
Tom Hooper's Cats, but from a critical standpoint, I'm looking at this, 20%. It reminds me sort of, it's almost exactly the same disparity between critic consensus and audience consensus, if you can believe these tomato meter numbers, which, I
Yeah.
understand that's a whole other conversation. It's about the same 30-point disparity, even though those 30 points were much higher on the scale, as with another film that I saw a few years ago that a lot of people hate that I absolutely loved,
Mm.
The Greatest Showman, which is another
Mhm.
December musical that came
Mhm.
out. I did not see that movie in the theater because every critic I know went to go see it and they trashed it. And
Mm.
they're like, it wasn't just me looking at the tomato meter and saying, oh, that's low. People I knew at the screening, they were like, man, it was terrible. Everyone was like hissing and booing and, no one knew what was going on. So I stayed away. I rented it when it came out on, home video the next year. And I was like, I am almost embarrassed to be a film critic right now because I allowed myself to be swayed by the kind of groupthink. I think this is a fantastic movie. And I went back and I listened to a lot of the criticisms of it that I thought were sort of meta contextual problems that a lot of the, I'll call them regular theater going folks who I didn't listen to when this movie was out, Greatest Showman I'm talking about, they
Mhm.
went and saw it. They loved it. And I kind of, it's like, oh well, you're the plebes, my critic friends say it's trash, but the regular people just want to go see Hugh Jackman
Oh,
and see a bunch of
yeah.
music and colors. They're like, no, it's great. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I watched it and I totally understood what those folks were talking about, and I
Yeah.
understood why the critical community got kind of up in arms about it. It's not historically accurate. A
Mhm.
lot of the people that I read or heard from, they were complaining about the songs. I'm like, no, that's just endemic to the form.
Mhm.
I actually heard
Mhm.
someone complain like, oh my God, another song. I'm like, yes, you're 10 minutes into a musical. There's going to be another song.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like when people say I hate wall-to-wall musicals. I'm like, well, it's called a musical.
Right. Yeah. So that sidebar is over. I'm just saying I got flashbacks to The Greatest Showman, thinking about Cats coming out of this theater. So
Yeah.
I'm like, it's happened again. I just happen to have gone to see it in the theater this time.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. And there is a mob mentality when it comes to uh I think not film criticism, but criticism in general. Like if you don't agree
Mm.
with the group, there's something wrong with you. And I think that's just kind of ridiculous. I like that. I actually really love the fact that you defend the film and you like the film, and there's no reason that you would be wrong at all because art is subjective. If you like a Michael Bay movie, there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, that's
You
where I
know.
draw another line, Mike.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, you know what? I worked for him personally, and trust me, I could draw a huge fucking line there.
Made
He,
of cocaine, no doubt.
yes, in his suitcase while he steps over an AD having a heart attack.
Wait, let me help you out with this one. Allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah,
Yes.
I've seen it. But no, I'm just open about my experience with him now. He's the Antichrist. Um, and even I am saying, you know what? If you like a Michael Bay movie, that's fine. That doesn't make. I remember there was this big moment when I was in film school where you want to talk about snobby hipsters. Uh, there was this one guy. We were in our aesthetics of cinema class, and they were showing all these kind of experimental films, and the this one student in our class, he's kind of like a regular guy, but he wasn't like a dumb idiot bro or anything, nice guy. But but he wasn't a hipster. So, and I know I don't mean to label people, but yeah, whatever, fuck it.
Shorthand, it's fine.
Yeah. It's in comedy you like to generalize things.
Right.
So he said, I just don't like a lot of these movies. I'm not really into experimental film. And, my opinion counts just like everyone else's. And someone in the class mumbled right behind him where you could hear him, no, it doesn't. And then her friends around her laughed. It's like, wow, fuck you, bitch.
Yeah.
You shouldn't. I'm sorry, I shouldn't use that. Whatever. And because really, she's being a bitch, and she's saying that and demeaning someone's opinion because it doesn't agree with yours.
Yeah.
Like that's not. I mean, my show's called "You'll Probably Agree" because even if you don't agree, tell me why. And if you do agree, that's great. But don't attack someone for their opinions on something. With cats, I mean, I feel like there's too much where you kind of need to know the backstory or have some kind of understanding of what it is. Because if you go in fresh, it's kind of just mind-boggling visually, and then they're just throwing all this information at you. And you just don't understand what any of this information means. I'm like, who are these twins? They're jerks. Okay, I get that, but why are they talking about themselves? And I mean, I didn't know it was about redemption. I only knew it was about rebirth because someone told me. I'm like, oh, that was it. Okay.
No, it's all the information is there, and with Victoria, not Victoria, Jennifer Hudson's character.
Yeah.
That was the whole thing. Was she used to be part of McCavity's gang, and she was basically found out and kind of banned from the cool cat group, if you will. And so it was about Victoria coming in and saying, you guys, yeah, she made some mistakes, but that's no reason to. She didn't I don't think she murdered anybody. Maybe she did, I don't know. But yeah, all the answers are there, and I'm going to say something that is going to, I'm sorry, Mike, people are going to turn off this show right after I say this. I'm going to make a comparison. We love all of them.
Yeah.
Oh, and also disclaimer, guys can be bitches too.
They
yes.
can be.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I
Donald
will
Trump.
say, yeah. I wanted to say this comparison I'm going to make is not in terms of quality, but just in terms of rewatchability and the need for it. I have seen the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey more than half a dozen times in my life. I've seen it a few times in the last couple of years because the Music Box has had those gorgeous 70mm presentations.
Yeah.
But I feel like every time I watch that movie, I come away with something, because it's not necessarily the most accessible film. You can look at it on one level and you can look at it on a completely different level. There's probably a fourth or a fifth level that you didn't even consider. And that's where I'm at with that movie. Every time I come away, I have a new bit of information or a new interpretation or something that I've read. I'm like, oh, that's what he was talking about. That movie just turned 50 years old a couple years back. Now with Cats, again, this is not a comparison of quality, but it does, I think, because it's a musical. I think it's because it's got a lot of these characters with complicated histories, which we do get a bit of, in the songs. It almost demands that you go back and rewatch it. You know, once you've gone from A to Z and you're like, man, this movie's fucking weird. I wonder what it's about. Go back and watch it again.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
now that you know that Jennifer Hudson's character is going to be the chosen one, maybe you focus in a bit more on her song or her story or the ways the other cats are singing about her. Watch their body language around her. Because in addition to the lyrics, a lot of the information is conveyed through the dance. Something that Tom Hooper was talking about on his commentary that I hadn't really picked up on in terms of appreciating was the Taylor Swift's number when she's singing about McCavity and she's
Yeah.
sprinkling catnip all over the room and the effect that was having on the cats and what it meant to the story. I was like, oh, that's really interesting. I got it on one level. I got the information I needed to get in and out of the scene, but having an extra bit of context made it a richer experience when I was watching it again. So that's all I'll say. And again, disclaimer, Cats is nowhere near as good as 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah. I don't think that's that bad of a thing to say check out the movie again and see if you get something different out of it. I would probably, if I did check it out again, I probably would get something different out of it. But again, aesthetically, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Like if a movie looks like crap, and it's shot poorly, and
Well,
you're
again,
not emotionally invested in the story, maybe you could get emotionally invested in it again, but I don't see myself getting invested. If it's free on Netflix or something like that, I'll check it out. I wouldn't pay money again to see it, but certainly if it's free, I'd check it out again just to kind of see some of these points. I will say that Jennifer Hudson's number is spectacular. You kind of do feel bad for her. I couldn't help but laugh though, like when she's walking back into the stage area / warehouse, whatever. Everything's a nightmare in that movie, and and like the cats are getting up to her face and going, yeah. It's like, why do you hate her? What? That was the problem. A lot of time I just watch and I'm like, why is this happening? The information is just shoved at you so much. But I will say, to your point, I think it does have some sort of thing to do with people's distaste for musical. And I'm not going to lie, I'm open to musicals, because I'm a critic, I kind of have to be open-minded. But instinctually, I'm like, oh, God, this better be a good song. Like, I was watching Hamilton, and if I didn't have someone explaining what was going on, while I was watching it, I probably would have been like, wait, what? He's, what? So you are right to that point.
Well, and I gotta confess, and I can't remember exactly when it was. I don't want to say it was La La Land, but just for shorthand, we'll say sure. I wasn't into musicals really until the last handful of years, and now it's not that I'm actively seeking them out. It's that when one comes across my path, I'm no longer like, I just rather go watch some sci-fi. There's some great musicals out there, and it's a form that doesn't quite have the resonance that it used to, and I understand that. I want to touch on something you said just a second ago. Is that I understand the CG criticism, but I don't think this movie was poorly shot, or directed. I think you can tell there was a lot of care and kind of inventiveness in the shots. Also, talking about the set design and really thinking about the compositions and how they were playing with scale. There's a lot of cool stuff going on here. And I get it might be hard to extract the frustration of watching a movie that you don't really get or care for or can't connect to. But, this thing is not, it's also directed by, and I know some people don't cotton to this or carry much weight, but the guy, Tom Hooper's won an Academy Award. Yep. He's gone on to make really big movies with really talented, studio people. So it's not like he made this again for the asylum.
Yeah. The most bizarre thing is that he's this Oscar-winning filmmaker. He made The King's Speech. It didn't deserve to win, but it did.
What was it up against that year? I really like
Network.
That was the Social Network year?
Yeah.
Wow. I loved both of those movies, and it was one of those things where I was happy that The King's Speech won, but that's just because I loved it. I would have been happy if the Social Network had won too.
Yeah.
But I'd forgotten that those. Man, I feel old now.
No, why is that old now? I don't know.
Was that 2010?
I don't remember. It might have been actually. Yeah, it was. God damn, it was 10 years ago. Now I feel old.
Yep,
Thanks.
2010.
God damn it. Um,
You're
but
welcome.
yeah, uh, yeah. That I mean, and Tom Hooper made John Adams, which is fantastic. Absolutely spectacular. And I feel like because he got all those Oscars and all that stuff, he kind of wound up like who was the guy who made the Deer Hunter, who essentially went crazy and
Oh,
God
I
rest
always
his soul
forget
now.
his name.
Yeah, Michael Cimino, that was it. I didn't
Yes,
even Google it. I just remembered it. I'm a genius.
very good.
Yeah, but yeah, I remember Michael Cimino. He won that Oscar for Deer Hunter, which is phenomenal in my opinion. And after that, he did Heaven's Gate. That's
Mhm.
right? That's the right one. Yeah, and that was him sort of becoming power hungry in a way, where he wanted to make these elaborate dance piece numbers in this barn, and he would individually move each extra, and he bankrupted the studio. And I feel like with Cats, Tom Hooper felt like he was on top of the world. He could make whatever he wanted, so he came up with this bizarre aesthetic that just rips you out of the movie. Like if I'm feeling like kind of scared when I'm watching. So I think the trailer for this came out around the time the It Chapter 2 trailer came out. And
Yeah.
some critic wrote like this is scarier than It Chapter 2. And it was.
But that's the thing. We're talking about two different things here. One is
Yeah.
the initial trailer, which again I have a vague memory of, and I remember it did look bad, but I feel like it was also the victim of internet pylon
Oh yeah.
because
Oh
it
yeah.
it wasn't terrifying, or that's like this is the scariest thing I've seen all year, that kind of a thing. It's easy to put that out there and have people glom onto it, and it also kind of taints the water.
Mm,
You can't go into it and just say, I think it looks all right, or I don't think it looks that bad. I think when the retouched up version hit theater, which is I think the version that I saw, I was expecting the worst.
yeah.
Again, we went to this thing expecting to be bowled over with laughter and just like pointing and screaming at the screen. It wasn't. I was like, I got into it. I understood what they were doing. And honestly, it wasn't any more, it was bizarre, but it didn't look any more unnatural than, say, the Navi in Avatar, where
Hmm.
you've got these kind of giant cat people walking around with somewhat human faces, but they have these kind of feline features and they're all 9 feet tall.
Yeah.
It's something that looks alien. And as imperfect as it is, I'm like, at least it doesn't look like every other CGI creature in the last, decade of movies where they get, a couple of different body types or for their alien creatures and just slap an
Mm,
eyeball in a different place.
yeah. Um, it's funny when that trailer came out. I didn't read the responses at the time, so I kind of had the same responses. Everyone like, what the fuck is that?
Mhm.
But you are right in terms of the mob mentality where, as we were saying again, if you don't agree with everyone, then they think there's something wrong with you. But just with me, if I'm being turned off by the overall visuals of the picture
Mhm.
and I'm not invested like in the singing numbers, like if you think of The Sound of Music, that movie's kind of ridiculous because these people are being hunted by Nazis, yet they're singing and dancing. If you
Yeah.
think about West Side Story, these are supposed to be tough street gang guys, and they're going around dancing around like a bunch of bitches. No, I didn't.
You brought it back full circle. We have equality now. I love it.
Yeah, but you still you like the songs, so you go with it and you
Mhm.
go with the story and you listen to what they're saying. For me personally, I'm not saying objectively for the movie, but for me personally, I just didn't like the songs
Yeah.
except for Memories. Everything else, I'm just like, shut up. Okay, you're a magician. Do your fucking magic trick and bring in Judy Dench, who has gotten old and can't sing anymore on the screen.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah. I understand.
yeah. But you'll probably agree. But no, I think, but I do love the fact that you like and defend this movie, and you should, and more power to you for that, because you know what? I don't want to be one of those guys who's like, but it looks weird. Ugh. Like, yeah, we know. Everyone said that. Try to listen to the other side, folks.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I appreciate you giving me this opportunity and this fair hearing. It's not an easy position to be in.
Yeah, it's film criticism, not film debate. I think the term criticism gets, kind of construed where people think, oh, you're a critic. You're going to find something you hate with a picture and slam it. Like,
Mm.
no, usually I look over stuff. If I wanted to slam a movie for film criticism, I'd hate The Dark Knight Rises because it is plot hole earthquake. Uh, but I still like it.
I think that was the original working title.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it's just talking about film criticism for a minute.
Yeah.
What a weird profession this is. I'll call it a profession, even though there's no money involved for a lot of us.
And no theaters.
That's true. Thank God for streaming, though. I don't know what we would have done if this had hit 10 or 20 years ago.
Oh, God.
But no, I will say that I've been doing this for about 10 years.
Yeah.
And or 11 almost. And one of the things I have had to combat in my quote unquote journey is that impulse to just hate on things and trash things. And, not necessarily the mob think, but I'm guilty, especially in some of my earlier writing, of just latching onto something and not letting it go without giving it more of an objective or at least a well-meaning viewing. So yeah, it's tough. It's something that we combat all the time, or at least we should be, if we're trying to be honest with ourselves, and also I'd say more importantly, the people who look to us for our opinions.
I did, and I think we do the same thing with movies that we like as well. Like if everyone likes it, you have to like it too. I remember with Marriage Story, I gave it 4 stars, although I use Guinnesses now because I'm creative. To rate the movie, and now I look back, I'm like, that was not a 4-star film. I don't think that was. I just thought, yeah, this was just kind of the director talking about his own life, calling himself a genius, stroking his own ego, and like outside of that one scene, it was just kind of like every critic was like, if you don't like it, then you don't like film. And I don't know if you've ever had a critic or a filmmaker or anyone in the arts tell you that exact quote, but I've had people say that. I remember going back to film school, I didn't like No Country for Old Men. I still don't like it.
Oh,
yeah.
Them's fighting words.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. But it's objective. We all have our right to our opinion, but I'm objectively correct. No, I'm just kidding.
Wow.
I'm kidding. But the point is everybody acts like that,
Yeah. Yeah, and I get that. And a couple of things, picking up on what you had said, giving it 4 stars, after you've seen it, that's perfectly legit, because you might have actually, it could be that you felt like you were succumbing to some kind of pressure, or it could just be that at the time you watch and you're like, this is a 4-star movie. But then with distance, several months later, you can be like, that wasn't a 4-star movie. I was caught up in the impact of the film, or maybe just influenced in a positive way by all the good vibes other people were giving it. And that's legitimate too. I mean, people have the right to go back and rewatch movies and say, oh, I was completely wrong about that, or I was right about that from my own perspective, but maybe I shouldn't have been as glowing, or that kind of thing. The group think is something that we gotta fight against.
Yeah, I just remember, even after I saw it, I gave it 4 stars because I didn't love it, but I couldn't find something I didn't like about it because I didn't know what it was at the time. And I'm like, oh yeah, the director likes the smell of his own farts, and that's what I realized after I saw it.
Well, here's the question: is that metacontextual, or is that something that you got from the movie?
I think I kind of got it from the movie, where it just felt kind of smug, but I couldn't understand why.
Well, I'd have to watch Marriage Story, like give it a sit down again to see if I'm picking up on it. Noah Baumbach is a director that I love. He does kind of make not the same movie over and over, but movies with similar themes. And he does seem to be at the center of it, which on the one hand, you could call smug. On the other, you
Yeah.
can look at filmmaking and storytelling in general. And what does everybody say about filmmaking?
Yeah.
You write what you know, you make
Mm,
what you know. You come at it from a perspective that you know so well that you can relate it to people who can also say, oh yeah, I've been there. I've been that guy, or that's an aspect of my personality that I
yeah.
recognize. So I don't know how successful he was in, Marriage Story, of covering that up, but I can say that he got some great performances out of actors, and
Hmm.
that movie is a play. It's not
Yeah.
it's not a traditional film by any
It's an
means.
Aaron Sorkin film.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he essentially just writes plays, but I'm fine with it. And you know what? I'm okay with the director tackling the same thing multiple times as long as it's fresh enough where it doesn't get stale.
Hmm.
Like Tim Burton always tackled the same thing about the sad loner, but eventually that got stale. There wasn't much more to say.
And
Uh,
then he made Dumbo.
then he made Dumbo. Hey, I haven't worked with Batman in years. You guys ready? I finally got Michael Keaton. Guess what it's for? What is it? Is it Batman? No, it's Dumbo. What?
Oh.
God. Yeah, but yeah, it wasn't until someone pointed it out that it made me realize what I didn't like about the movie. Everyone kept calling Adam Driver's character a genius. I'm like, oh, he's calling himself a fucking genius. And yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the hmm. We might just need to talk about Noah Baumbach in a separate show.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think people having a writing a character that's
Yeah.
loosely based on yourself being in a movie and having other people constantly refer to him as a genius could be a sign of narcissism. It could also be the way that Noah Baumbach experiences being Noah Baumbach in the real world, because he does have a following. He does
Hmm.
have a lot of accolades, and I think he or other people got nominated for that film. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that he goes around having people constantly heap praise on him and calling him a genius.
Yeah.
So again, if we're writing what we know, he's going to put a character in the film that is constantly praised by other people, and he gets an ego off of it, and that ego is one of the things that ends up destroying his relationship, hence
Hmm.
Marriage Story, hence the story that I think inspired Marriage Story.
Hmm. I like it. I like that. Yeah, because the thing is, I also probably didn't like the quote unquote smugness of it because of film school. This is like therapy now. Because when I said I didn't like No Country for Old Men to a fellow film student, like a complete dick, he just went, "Well, it's just because you don't like slower moving films." Like, oh, so now
Oh.
you can just judge everything that I view through a very limited lens. Okay, fine. So that it's just like, and it just kind of reminded me of that kind of persona that I didn't like. So it kind of maybe it's like my distaste for Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I always call it Ferris Bueller's white privilege, and the thing was I never liked that movie because it just reminded me of like the neighborhood and the people I grew up with. And I think all of our distaste for certain characters, certain movies stem from personal experience, and that's why film is subjective in a way.
Sure. And I think, this is the second story I think you've talked about in this episode from a film school slash art school
Yeah.
experience. And I got to say, it reminds me of when I was in high school and I took a film class. We would watch movies and we'd have these like long discussions that would last for a class or two after we'd finished watching the movie about the film. And it was really the teacher explaining stuff to us, but also getting our feedback. And it
Mm,
was sort of the seeds of film criticism.
yeah.
And I think that's, if you're going to have a film school, I would say that's kind of the way to approach like a film criticism or film
Yeah.
history thing, instead of allowing comments like, "Oh, it's just 'cause you don't like film." No, let's unpack it.
Yeah.
Why didn't you like the film? No one can just say about anybody else, "Oh, it's because you're saying this because you don't like X," without knowing that person.
Yeah.
I could say, like, if you have an irrational film fear of jelly beans and you go see Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, you could say, "Hey, that movie." I might infer, "Oh, well, it's because you have a problem with candy," but I
Yeah.
can't, I can't just objectively say, "Oh, you don't like it because you don't know what you're talking about."
Yeah. Or you don't like musicals because they
Right.
sing in it, or yeah. But yeah, I think that's with cats, to bring it full circle. someone could say, oh, it's because, you don't like cats because you don't like cats, or you don't like musicals, or, oh, you like the movie because you want to be contrarian or something like that. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what a lot of people do. Like, a lot of people joke that YouTube could be the contrarian Olympics, where if you watch something and you hate it and everyone else loves it, people are gonna love your video. And I've noticed stuff like that sometimes.
It's sometimes that's true. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll point to the fact that I think I have 9 views on my Pro Cats video. But I'll also
Well,
say that
that has nothing to do with the content. There's a lot of technical stuff relating to views that it's very
oh,
difficult to
sure.
weed
I'm
out.
being partially
Yeah.
facetious or cat-cetious. But I will say also the thing that I think people get wrong is, yeah, there's a certain segment of people who get off on being the contrarian, especially if they've built an audience around it. But for people who say have been at this a long time and maybe don't have much of an audience, being a contrarian can be a very lonely thing because you're being
Yeah.
honest. You're often going against the groupthink, and it's not like the co-sign on my website is the movie reviews from the last guy anyone asks. That's
Yeah.
because I often come up against the popular opinion, a lot of stuff, and it's not because I wear it as a badge of honor. It's kind of tongue in cheek. It's kind of cold and lonely out here. I'm like, sometimes I'm wondering, what am I not getting that everyone else is? And sometimes I find out the answer, and that's part of my film education.
And, well, you know what? When you explain your point of view, I usually like it. I agree with it, and I I understand it. And there's nothing wrong with having a different point of view on something. I actually just got the book on Cuckoo's Nest, by the way, and
Is it a new
because
one?
no, the Kenkenzie book, One Flew Over the
Oh,
Cuckoo.
okay.
Yeah.
I thought they were talking about the making of the movie, but okay,
No,
so
no. Uh,
cool.
I don't think it would work for screen if you did it just like the book. But I like the fact that you didn't like it and you had a legitimate reason for it. So, people, if you don't like, well, you know what? It doesn't matter, because whenever I have a review, and I wrote this whole article about why I liked The Last of Us Part 2, which is getting lambasted by fans on the internet. And I actually very respectfully said, hey, I agreed with everybody when I read the leaks for that game and what happened in the plot, which was it was advantageous to say the least when people found out what happened in the plot early on before the game came out. And once I played it, I understood why I liked it. Of course, nobody read the article. They just posted memes and, called me names and stuff like that. So there's a civility in film critique that is lacking. So, if people give you shit for not liking, or for liking cats, well, that's just because they don't want to listen. And listen is something that we should do. I think as a country and
Yeah.
as artists. So how about that? That was a very deep conversation, more so than about cats. Because yeah, I was expecting this to be like like a yuck yuck. Oh, that was weird. That was stupid, sort of thing. And instead, we had a very subtextual conversation.
I love it, man.
Why
This
we're
is
officially critics and you people are no.
oh no, Mike missed the entire point. Ah!
Yeah.
No, this has been great, man. I really appreciate these conversations.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So, anyways, I guess that's all we can say about cats. Ian Simmons likes it. Uh, I'm part of the torch lighting group. Uh, so watch out for your cats. I'm coming for them.
Ew.
No, I'm kidding. Ew. Yeah. What the hell did that even mean?
No, I would say if you want, you can take mine. My house would smell better.
Yeah, the cat shit smells really like bad. Like dog shit isn't as bad. All right, that's why are we talking about this? I have ADD. Thank you for coming on, Ian. Check out his material at kickseat.com. Can't wait to talk to you again about our next thing. I think I'm coming on your show to talk about Inception. It's been 10 years since Inception came out.
10 years, yeah.
That was in the Oscars that year as well. Boy. God.
And that'll be not to give it away because I haven't watched it in 10 years. I'll be watching it again this
Whoa.
weekend. I'll be
Wow.
watching it for this weekend for our chat. That is a movie I really did not respond to. So
Yeah.
again, I'm hoping a second watch with maybe a little bit more knowledge and film appreciation on my belt, I'll be able to latch into what's going on. And if not, it'll be a really robust conversation. Because
Yeah.
I don't know if I've gotten your full feelings on Inception. Can you preview for me? Did you like it? Did you not like it?
Exposition. Uh,
No, sorry, your high level thoughts on it, like your
uh,
point of view.
it's okay.
Okay,
Yeah, that's about it.
all right,
I thought
that's
it was one of Nolan's weaker films.
oh interesting.
Too many
Okay,
scenes of people explaining what was happening instead of just letting me be absorbed in the concept.
this will be interesting because most of the people I know who talk about Inception talk about it, very glowingly and with this kind of a reverence. So to find that you're a bit more on the even keel, it'll be cool to find out where we kind of come to on this one.
Yeah, it's one of those movies where everyone had a strong opinion. I'm just like, eh. That was it. You know,
Yeah.
I feel like Tenant, well, if it wasn't coming out now officially a year from now, uh, yeah. Oh, well, we did have that conversation.
Yeah.
And I was right above everyone. I said theaters aren't going to open for like a year and a half from now, and people were like, it'll probably come back August, September.
Well, but in fairness, because
Yeah,
I was one of the optimists. I mean, a lot of that relies on information that's on the ground,
yeah.
which is changing every day, particularly in regards to people's behaviors. As far as like, how long do you guys want this to go on? Just follow a few rules, and don't worry about it, and we'll get through this. But again, I guess year and a half.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks, America.
Oh,
Thanks for coming on, Ian. Why are I pausing your name? I don't know. I'm tired.
it's still me. No, it's fine.
Where am I?
You're ascending to the
McGaffin took me.
heavens.
McGuffrey, whatever the fuck it. Idris Elba took me.
It's McCavity.
McCavity.
You're ascending to the heavenside layer.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Man, Idris Elba's still hot even as a cat.
especially under all that fur.
Does that mean I'm gay or straight? I don't know. Figure it out for yourselves.
It makes you Siamese. No.
Yeah. All right. So, Cats. It's a movie that maybe you should check out again. I will when it's free. Having said that, you'll probably agree you could check us out at ypareviews.com. Thank you so much again, Ian.
Thank you, sir.